The biggest mind trap you can fall into is the victim mindset. And the problem with putting yourself in the victim position is that it becomes dangerously comfortable. It becomes so comfortable and so cozy that it gets more and more difficult for you to get out of that victim mentality. And once you play a single role for so long, it inevitably becomes your whole life. It becomes your whole identity. It becomes who you are, whatever you do. And in my experience, the reason why identifying yourself as the victim becomes so appealing is because there's a certain pleasure that comes from it. So I had some family issues growing up. And throughout my teenage years and my early adulthood, I used to play the role of the victim. And when I did that, it was kind of like surrounding myself with an impenetrable layer of protective armor, because this is the mentality that I had. It was me against the world. Everyone around me was an antagonist who didn't understand the suffering I've gone through. No one in the world was sophisticated enough to understand who I am. I was the one completely alone in the universe and powerless in a world full of corruption and injustice. So these were all the things that I kept telling myself, and to be honest, they made me feel good. They made me feel like a protagonist in a dark indie film, and these eloquent claims and complaints about the world gave me this strange sense of romantic appeal, like it was giving me a strange sense of significance in my life. But at the same time, all these thoughts, all these justifications added more weight to my impenetrable armor. So this made it harder and harder for me to take it off. And the armor that I was wearing gave me a sense of security and comfort, because now I was free to do whatever I pleased and desired without any guilt. Since I was the broken one shaped by my own trauma and my own suffering, I was justified to indulge in any kind of self-destructive activities and behavior, right? Because that gives you a sense of control over yourself with so little amount of effort. So with every puff of smoke from my parched lips, I was actively feeding my character in despair. With every failed attempt to turn things around every now and then, I was nourishing the identity and justifying my identity of a fallen hero. And the more I destroyed myself through deliberate failures and broken relationships, the more I distrusted any kind of optimism or encouragement that was out there like pebbles on the street. And I never knew what the meaning of loving yourself meant. It was so far out of reach that the only thing I could do was scoff at the seemingly ridiculous claim. And when you get too good at articulating your suffering and too bad at focusing on your own value and strengths, it becomes harder to leave your wounds, right? It becomes harder to leave your wounds behind because you've already built your whole identity around your wounds. So you don't want to let go of them. And when times go by, there comes a point when you decide to see your own reflection. And I'm not necessarily talking about looking yourself in the mirror, right? I'm talking about writing things down. You write things down on a notebook. And you don't have anyone to talk to at this point, so the only conversation you can have is the one with yourself. And this is often done with a pen and a paper, right? And you do this without the distraction of anything else on your screen. So you start writing page after page, day after day. And as you make note of how you see the world, you get a chance to see what you really think from a third person's perspective. And this is the important part. You detach yourself from your own identity that you have built, right? Because when you see your past record, you can clearly see the type of identity you have built around yourself. And through pages and pages of writing you have done, you start seeing yourself for who you are. So if you compare this to another thing, it kind of feels similar to reading someone else's Twitter post that often makes you very judgmental and prone to adding an advisory comment out of frustration for being so helpless, right? For giving up too easily. So you get the same feeling when you read your own posts that you have written down on your notebook. And since you want to be less embarrassed and more proud of yourself, that is when you decide to start making changes. You make changes in order to feel good about yourself. You make changes to accept yourself. You do this to love yourself. And nowadays, I feel like loving yourself gets thrown around too easily to encourage any sort of degenerate behavior and not accept any kind of responsibility. But that's not what it really means, right? Loving oneself is just like taking care of a pet. Or if you are a gamer, it's like taking care of your character inside the game, right? If you're a serious RPG gamer, you don't just go about leveling up your character without any plan. What you do is you carefully plan what kind of stat and what kind of skill tree you would choose and upgrade, while also carefully choosing the best items for your character, right? And the same thing goes for a dog. If you're a dog owner and your dog starts eating trash out of the waste bin, you don't pet him and say, "Good boy," right? You don't do that because you love him. What you do is you discipline him. You teach your dog that that's not the right thing to do until he learns and acts correctly. Also, if your dog becomes obese, you don't just let him be obese. You don't let him just be fat, right? You take him out for a walk every single day until he leans down and becomes healthy again. Because those are the things that you do if you truly love someone. And the key idea here is, if you truly love yourself and want to fully accept who you are, you don't just tolerate every single thing you do, right? Because that's not what a person who cares chooses to do. A person who truly cares takes care of oneself the way he cares for his beloved dog or his prized game character. And this action of taking care of yourself continues until you lay down on your deathbed in the future, thinking back to all the proud things that you have done for yourself and for everyone else in your lifetime. Thinking back to how you actually took care of yourself and loved yourself. What a fulfilling life you have lived, right? So to anyone who is stuck in the past, ruminating about past trauma, take good care of yourself so that you don't regret not doing so after you've run out of time. Don't let yourself do anything that you wouldn't want for the ones you love. If you are already in the process of taking care of yourself and feel proud of yourself for doing so, that is great. That is great. And I hope you continue to do so throughout the remaining time in this world. I'm certainly in the same process as everyone else watching or everyone else in the world, right? And I'm human, you're human, and if I'm doing it, if so many people in the world is doing it, that means that you can do it too.